Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I am your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 19, Film Study with Sammy Smith. And this is a new type of episode that I'm going to be introducing. Sammy's going to be the very first guest for it, where basically we're going to go back and we're going to watch some old sport karate videos and give commentary on it. So if you are a member of our Podbean audience, I highly recommend heading over to YouTube to check out this episode, because we're actually going to be including live video of these clips from sport karate history as Sammy and I are commentating about it. So it should be a really fun episode. I'm really looking forward to it, but I highly recommend that you go and check it out on YouTube. If you're a Podbean listener, you can still hear our commentary on the forums, but it won't be the same without being able to see the forums. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sammy. We've been friends since we were like 8 years old. Now we're teammates on Team Paul Mitchell. And Sammy, I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sammy Smith, of course, represent Team Paul Mitchell, teammates with Jackson. I'm so excited to go back in time. For those of you guys who don't know, I've been competing on the circuit since 2004 at the US Open. So I've seen my fair share of forms, and I can't wait to go back and watch all these cool forms with you guys.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Now, this is my first time kind of navigating the Zoom and everything, so we're going to see how this goes. All right, so we've exited the slideshow. Now we're going to pull up the YouTube, which is where we're going to operate from. And we just had to start this episode with going back and looking at some of Sammy and I's own old clips. So our first gym here is going to be Sammy Smith from the 2008 Ocean State Grand Nationals finals.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Shout out to Black and Blue Video for the history here. Repping that Pro Rank uniform.
Oh, yeah. Pro Rank all the way. Let's go.
Pro Rank was a great team in its day. Their demo, too, was sick.
Oh, yeah. That was so cool. I love doing the demos with everybody.
This was back in a time when everybody had like a 10-minute long intro.
Oh, yeah. Definitely don't miss those days. Oh, let's see.
The head nod.
Ah, the head nod.
Iconic head nod.
I should bring that back.
I feel like you still do it sometimes, right?
Oh, when I'm in the zone, it just comes out. Oh, yeah. There we go. Young Sammy, let's go.
Ocean State's was always an interesting night show back in the day, because back in the day, they didn't have a stage. It was just like a huge mat and like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it used to be on a tarp, too, before the puzzle mats even existed.
See, I'm not old enough to know about the tarp. I was the puzzle mat era. That was a nice sidekick, showing those basics.
Oh, yeah. I remember it got so intense here.
And the zoom in. That's great.
Oh, man. Fun fact, I've been on the Ocean State stage since 2007, every single year since then. So I'm really hoping I don't break my streak this year. Let's keep it going. But, yeah.
That's awesome. So now we're transitioning, and this is a video that I actually did not know existed. The entire inspiration for this episode was from a conversation that Sammy and I had last night in a group chat where we were just reminiscing on all these old videos. And this is one of the few sport karate history videos that I had never seen before. 2007 Charlie Lee Nationals final. And as I start playing it, Sammy, just kind of tell us how this came together.
Oh, yeah. So Charlie Lee went up to Matt Emick, and he asked if he could put together a demo. And I was working with Matt at the time. He was my first XMA sport karate coach. And he asked me if I wanted to be a part of this legendary crew. And of course it said yes. It's Matt, it's Daniel Sterling, it's Vince Johnson, Sammy Vasquez, Danny Graham, and Nice Sherfa, and somebody else.
You say Matt Cato? I think Matt Cato was in this too, wasn't he?
I'm not sure. I think that's no, that's Robbie Andriozzi.
Oh, Robbie Andriozzi. That's cool.
Yeah. So this
anyway,
was
shout out to Vince Johnson for that horse stance combo in the beginning of this clip. That was sick.
This is an iconic demo. Yeah.
Matt and Sammy Vasquez doing sync. That would have never normally happened. That's crazy. Danny Graham and Anise right there. Two of the pioneers of tricking doing an open form together. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So effortless.
You know what? Mm-hmm. That was considered hard back then, which is crazy. A rise gainer and a cork like that. Those were like the hard moves. If you did that, you were really good at tricking.
Well, and to me, what's so impressive is just how effortless they make it look, especially like Anise and Danny. I mean, it was just they made it look so easy. This combo is sick.
Ow, so cool, so cool. The style.
And then Sammy X out over both of them. That's sick. Sammy Vasquez, that is. Sammy Smith spotlight's coming up.
Yeah, I definitely didn't double leg over them. Oh, look at that. Look at this chuckler. Let's go.
This is the AKA Sammy. This is before the pro rank days.
Oh, yeah. The AKA Sammy. I was just so hyped to be up there with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only kid up there. Come on. This part's so cool.
Yeah, this is sick. D-leg over the chucks. I've never seen anything like this.
Anise. It's not every day that you can say Anise and Danny flipped over you while you're doing chucks. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I've never seen it in any context, period. For like anybody to be in a stance doing martial arts and then somebody flip over them. I've never seen that until this video.
Let's go, demo teens. Let's see what you got.
Like people flip over like people on their knee and stuff like that. But that is sick right there. All right, moving on to our next clip. Now it's my turn. So now we're gonna go back. This is actually a clip from the very first overall grand that I ever won. This was Compete Nationals 2010. We've been lucky not to hit any ads yet. We're definitely gonna hit some ads on YouTube before we get to the end of these videos, but fortunately nothing yet.
The young Jackson.
I was about to say me with the spiky hair.
But your bow hasn't changed though. The color of it.
Oh, that's the trademark. You got to keep the green bow. Look at that stance, though. Us.
They gonna let me out. They gonna call my name.
Sammy's referencing the actual music that I was using. By the way, we are going no audio on these videos just so the commentary is really clear. Otherwise, it'd get really confusing, especially for the podcast listeners. But even the people listening on video, it'd just be weird to have the background noise going. This was the very first edition of that opening combo that I do now that has a triple spin in it. Very first edition of that was actually just a 360 and then another little behind the back toss there. But up until this point, nobody had really comboed bow tricks like that. So part of the reason this form was successful is even though by today's standards, some of these tricks are a little bit more basic, nobody had really linked them together in this way. Like going right there from the fantail to behind the back palm spin to that double spin, that was something people just didn't do.
Yeah, this form is sick.
I love that transition out of that 540 catch there.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's probably my favorite part of this form right there at the end.
I used to always go ham at the end of my form when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
That was actually a bit mundane. I remember I used to yell a whole lot more than that, but.
Yeah, I don't really know all the bow technical terms, but when you caught behind your back and then you rolled around your neck to that pose, that was my favorite part always to watch.
So now we're gonna move off of the hosts of the podcast here, and now we're gonna switch to probably one of the most iconic tournaments that has ever existed, and that is the French Open, and specifically French Open 5. And for background on this tournament, I learned recently, I used to think that this was like Hungarian Kickboxing World Cup or Irish Open or what used to be Austrian Open. I used to think it was like that, where Paul Mitchell just like sent competitors there in order to, teach seminars and that type of thing. And when I watched the YouTube videos, I always wondered why people went so hard. Like people just threw everything when they were at French Open. And it turns out that the backstory is that the promoter would actually fly people to this event, fly Americans to this event with the intent of everybody just throwing everything. It's not like it was for NASCA points or World Championship or anything like that. They were just all going hard for a trophy. And so this is Daniel Sterling, and probably one of the most bizarre intros in the history of sport karate. Sammy, I'll let you talk about this a little bit.
Oh, gosh. All right. Where do I even begin? You know what? We're just going to let the people watch this for a little bit, and then I'll chime in here. But we do have the great Daniel Sterling. Daniel and Matt have taught me everything I've known. I'm so grateful for them. Just Daniel's raw energy and power is what brings it out. But, he's always a jokester too a little bit. Bam!
The intro right in face. Also, notice how that was just one judge, which is also weird. I don't know what context this is. Unless maybe the judges were on the corners. That's possible. But, yeah, do you have any idea why the chicken mask? I just, I can't put it together. This is in France. Was it near Thanksgiving or something?
I think I asked why he had the chicken mask, and I don't I don't really know for a fact, so I don't really want to say where it came from, but I'm sure it was a joke. And just Daniel being Daniel, I'm sure he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? Daniel is the man.
It better be some type of crazy inside joke with a crazy story behind it.
Yeah, I want to hear this joke. So Matt, if you're listening, tell us what's going on here.
Let's say you see Matt kneeling in the back there, and this is massive.
Ooh.
That was huge.
Oh my gosh.
And the height that he got on that is ridiculous. To the split, Arabian.
Oh yeah. And you know what? It was okay that he kind of stumbled a little bit. Like that, you know what? That was part of it. He owned it, and it's totally fine.
Well, it's also because at French Open, like, everybody was throwing their hardest stuff. Like, you don't see many perfectly clean forms because everybody was throwing everything they had for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I feel like people need to bring that back because it just seemed like the forums were a lot more fun to do. And since there was no pressure, people were just trying things, and it actually made these forums a lot more entertaining, like kind of what we just saw. I mean, I really would like to watch like just the forums that everyone just goes all out and like no regrets what happens, and they just go ham.
Absolutely. And also the competitive environment. Like, if you just look around the ring, it's crazy. Now we're going to move on to Vince Johnson, which is one of the most electric things that I've ever seen a human being do. This intro is probably the greatest intro of all time. Takes the knee, Marcel Jones with the headband, and then we're going to have Matt Emig and Mark Canonizato flip in with his commas. He summons them into the ring. And I've actually talked about this form on the podcast before when I was talking about the funniest moments that I've ever seen in sport karate. But this is also, it's fast, it's powerful, it's a good form outside of how comedic the intro is.
Yeah, everyone just look at the background. Look at all the people going crazy. We definitely need to bring this back into sport karate. It's something that I miss. So just look, everyone just went crazy for a spin. Come on. And the knee slide. Oh.
Vince Johnson just had so much style. And the comma speed there was insane. He was moving so fast.
Yeah.
And actually, we're going to get back to another French Open video, but I just remembered a video that's not even on my list that I wanted to include that, Sammy, we actually talked about last night. And that comma form just made me think about it. Let's pull up Dre Rice. You guys can see that I've already watched this video. Dre Rice, Quebec Open 2008. Talk about Vince Johnson style. Dre was probably the 13 and under competitor with the most style in his day.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Sterling, I coached Dre and I, so we were really close back in the day. Like when we were 7, 8, 9, we actually came up in NASCA together. So it was really cool, and Dre was always killing it. And I had a little bit of trouble in the girls division, I'm not gonna lie, and Dre was always winning. So he kind of actually pushed me to want to win my runoffs and to want to get better and to want to be up on the stage because he was on the stage before I was. So.
Right. Yeah, I still remember being a little kid and competing against Dre, and Dre would always kick my butt.
Shout out to Dre Rice. Look at that.
Just so much style. He's doing things that comma practitioners don't do anymore. It's unique. It's creative.
Yeah. And actually, if you notice, he's not even going to throw the comma out of his hand one time, which is really interesting.
Well, his big trick was his thumb spin. He was actually the originator of the comma thumb spin that since a lot of great competitors have done. But Dre was the one who actually did it first. I don't think he does it in this form, though.
Yeah, no. So backstory on that, a long time ago, it was actually probably during this time, me and Dre were actually on an Excel martial arts commercial, and his dad was the one who was talking about how he was doing the thumb spin with a basketball, and he was like, hey, do that with your comma. And then Dre did it with his comma, and that's actually how this move came about. So
that's sick.
That's really cool.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to the French Open, and now we're going to the guy that is, in my opinion, the greatest CMX competitor of all time. And again, French Open 5, Matt Emig weapons. That's all I got to say, really. A lot of suspense in the intro to this form, if I remember correctly. It's like a 1.5-minute video, but like the first minute is all just suspense and buildup, which is classic Matt. You know what I mean? Matt was huge about getting the crowd into it with his suspense, and his intros just had so much hype.
Right, and I actually think that's a really important part, just the intro, just building the suspense, because that's what draws the crowd in.
And Matt, again, we talk about style. I mean, Matt's one of the guys that's had the most style in the history of our sport.
Totally agree.
still just getting ready. I wish that we could hear what music was playing right now. It had to have been some kind of epic build-up. The double leg with the chucks, keeping him spinning the whole time. That's crazy.
A
The
lot of people
reverse grip chuck striking. Yeah, Sammy?
a lot of people don't realize the intricate movements that he's actually doing, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. He never got enough respect for the level of complexity. Watch this. One-handed back handspring with the other chuck spinning. I mean, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. And before he did that, he gave the judges like a little like nod, like "What's up? I'm about to do this," and that comes with the style. Like this, that's what made Matt his style for sure.
Absolutely, and his confidence. Matt was great about having confidence but not arrogance. You know what I mean? And he really brought that every single time that he stepped into the ring. And now we're going to go ahead and shift to my favorite extreme form that I've ever seen. This is Matt, 2008 U.S. Open. Just did so many tricks that were so unique in this form. Sammy, do you remember watching this live? Because I do.
I do. I remember almost every one of Matt's forms that I've seen live.
Yeah, it's with a competitor this great, it's just those iconic performances always stick out in your mind. Also, this uniform is an iconic Paul Mitchell uniform. He's got the shampoo bottle gi. This is sick right here.
I'm so
goes rodeo shuriken, holds the rodeo for a full rotation after the trick is done. And this is my favorite part. Runs up, brandy to the statue, his signature move.
Going
into the statue out of the brandy is sick, though.
And he always has a trick pass or the kick pass. It's so clean. Everything Matt does, besides the style, he's so clean. There's no one topping him in forms.
Absolutely. And then the hook kick to the forward roll itself, that actually was that Carmichael Simon originally?
I believe so.
I want to say that was Carmichael. I know there were a couple of people that did it, but I think the first person to do it would have been Carmichael Simon.
He was even intense until.
Whoa. Wait. We got to get the slow motion replay. Thank you, ESPN. Let's get this slow-mo out here. Massive double nine.
Full extension.
And then watch this. Shuriken, rodeo, holds it, full rotation into the stance. Brandy, statue. I mean, that's just gorgeous.
And the way he comes out of the moves, too. Not just while he's doing the move, it's how he comes out of it, which just ties everything together.
Exactly. Matt was performing every single moment that he was in the ring, and that's part of what made him special. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and move to one of Matt's teammates and sync partners, which we're going to get to their sync form here in just a second. But when we talk about my favorite CMX forms that I've ever watched, this one stands out to me. This is probably the best form that I've seen not win the U.S. Open. This was the U.S. Open that I believe Sengao actually wound up winning. But, I mean, Austin Crane went to work this night.
I like the little claps that he just did.
Yeah, just so relaxed, just walking back there about to do his thing. And this was actually after Austin had a little bit of a hiatus, too. Double Webster to the split. That's an Austin Crane signature.
Oh, my God. The power that he has. You can just feel it from the first two punches.
So strong. It's insane. Massive full D-leg there. And then this, double statue. Boom, grabs both legs coming out of it, hits the front stance. That's the other thing. All these guys are hitting stances. It's something that a lot of times when you see people do the bigger tricks in forms, they don't hit the stances as much. Matt and Austin both always did a great job of hitting the stances to go with it. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and let this play through because another guy that was a great CMX forms competitor in that division was Micah Carnes. Micah was probably one of the most dominant forms competitors, especially when he was in the junior division. When he got to the adult division, obviously Matt Emig was up there. So, Matt had the advantage in that case. But Micah, definitely a great CMX forms competitor in his time.
I remember competing against Micah. There was one year, I want to say it was back in 2010, when they combined the 17 and under, and it was all CMX, and then it was 17 under, all traditional, I believe. And it was always like 14-year-old or 13-year-old Sammy going against 17-year-old Micah Carnes. So it was an adventure competing against him. But everyone who I've competed against throughout my years have just made me better. So I'm so thankful to say that I've been able to compete against some of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. But I mean, when you get a chance to compete against one of the all-time greats, I mean, that's just truly special. Because I wasn't a forms competitor that same season that you're talking about, Sammy, I actually did get to compete against Micah twice. The first was actually at Competes when I won the Grand, and then I moved on to the gold medallion round to actually beat Micah's CMX form with my bow form. And then the next time they did something similar at Diamonds that year. And I actually wound up dropping against his open form, so he won that diamond ring. But anyway, Micah was also in that division, definitely one of the great forms competitors of all time. That division was just stacked between Austin and Micah alone, and the fact that one of them didn't take that win is just crazy. But no disrespect to anybody. I mean, everybody threw down. But
And that is the thing. That's a key word that you just said. Everybody threw down. Like
mm-hmm.
everyone threw all these crazy forms, and the competition, you couldn't even describe it. You just had to be there to feel it. You could definitely feel the energy in the room.
Oh, absolutely. Now we're getting to one of my favorite sync forms of all time, which is Matt Emig and Austin Crane, a combo that really nobody saw coming. Don't you think, Sammy?
Yeah, I mean, they both have two different styles, but they made it work in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Without thinking about this one too much, I would probably say they're my favorite sync open hand form that I've watched. Clean, perfect sync. This trick combo was iconic here.
I remember trying to build this trick combo just for fun, and it was a little bit tricky.
Been perfectly in sync the entire time here, which is awesome.
This part is my favorite because this is kind of a play off the Matt and Daniel sync when Matt and Daniel used to do sync a long time ago. So it was cool how they kind of brought it back, but like in a new era type of way.
I love how hype Austin gets at the end there. That's killer. So yeah, Matt and Austin, definitely one of the best sync forms of all time. And actually, I'm going to pause the video right there. Go ahead and bring it back full screen. Because Sammy, before this episode, we actually got a viewer submitted question that I wanted to run by you. And that question was, who would be like your dream team sync partner? So we can both answer this, but I'll go first so you can think about it. But like, if you could do team sync with anybody in the history of sport karate, who would you do sync with? For me personally, I would probably have to go with Mike Bernardo, because that would be kind of like the ultimate parallel to what my coach and her coach did, which was Lauren Carney and Casey Marks doing a synchronized bow form together. They had the iconic sync bow form in which, and actually, while we're talking about this, I'll go ahead and pull up that sync bow form, going off script here a little bit. But yeah, so Lauren Carney and Casey Marks did a sync bow form where they actually only used one bow between the two of them, passing the bow back and forth, just a legendary team sync form. And I wouldn't want to take away from that legacy any by saying that I would want to do a sync with, Lauren or Casey, but going back further in the lineage and having a chance to do sync with a prime Mike Bernardo, who trained Casey Marks, I mean, that would have been incredible. So Sammy, as we play this, what do you think? If you had a dream fantasy sync partner, who would you do sync with?
I'm gonna break the rule a little bit, and I'm gonna say two. For my weapon sync, I would definitely have to go with Matt. I've actually been trying to get Matt out of retirement and been bugging him about doing a sync at US Open. So who knows? Maybe that will happen. I'm not really sure, but that's definitely on my bucket list. I think if I got to do a sync with Matt, I would be the happiest person, and like my sport karate career, it would just be a highlight. Let's just say that. As far as open forms go, I'm gonna go with my other person, Daniel Sterling. Like I said before, he's taught me everything that I know. I've learned to have the raw power and the energy and all the performance, along with Matt has helped me with the performance too, but he has helped me as well. And I don't know if you guys know this, but last year I was wearing Daniel Sterling's belt. And it was kind of a tribute to him because I met him first at the US Open, and he's the one who got me hooked up with Matt and got me in contact with Matt. And I was still training with Daniel and Matt at the same time. And it's because of that very moment, I honestly think that I am who I am today because of them. So I'm so grateful. So kind of as a tribute to Daniel, I asked if I could wear his belt until I retire, because he's the one who brought me into the NASCAR circuit. And I'm going to retire whenever that shall be. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to be wearing that belt to represent him.
That's awesome. And yeah, just that's really cool, Sammy. And reflecting on this form that we just watched, I mean, the creativity that it took to choreograph this form, all of the moves fit together. Casey and Lauren, obviously two of the best female competitors of all time. Just incredible to watch them work together with this much creativity. I mean, this is something that you just don't see anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, especially when you break it down in slow motion. Like I said, sometimes things don't really catch your eye as easy when everything's going so fast. When you break down forms in slow motion, you could really see like what they were doing and how difficult it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love watching forms in slow motion because you get to see all the intricacies that as martial artists we think about and we do on purpose, but it's not always seen by the judges or by the audience because we're the ones that made it up. So we know that we're doing it, but that doesn't mean that everybody else does.
Right, yeah. And that's actually a good training tool. If you ever want to put the YouTube videos in slow motion just to see how things actually look slowed down, that's really helpful, and that's something that I've definitely done before.
Absolutely. So now, kind of going off of those couple of U.S. Open clips that we just watched, we're going to move to one of my favorite U.S. Open performances of all time, which is Kalman-Choka 2010. And this was peak Kalman-Choka. I mean, this is when he was in his prime, almost unbeatable. Sammy, do you remember some of the battles that he used to have with Matt and Weapons?
Oh yeah. But you know what? The battles is what makes just draws people in. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, that's what's interesting.
It's
Kalman,
actually sometimes good to have, a little battle going on.
that behind the head catch there was crazy just in his intro. But yeah, Kalman probably wouldn't be considered as great as he is if he didn't have a great rival, if you will, like Matt.
Oh my God.
Double release there with the off timing. That's insane. And that's just another reason we should always respect our competitors, right? Because it's your competitors that are the ones that, if you didn't have anybody to compete against, you wouldn't be able to win in the first place, right?
For sure.
But yeah, Kalman changed the game with this double sword form. And little known fact, Kalman only did this double sword form on stage. He would win in the divisions with single sword, and then he upgraded to double sword only for the night show, so he could win with both.
So clean. So clean.
Super clean, iconic ending there with the muscle pose, lifts the fist in the air. Love that form. Kalman-Choka, in my opinion, greatest weapons competitor of all time. Definitely one of the greatest weapons competitors of all time. He was a legend. And that brings us to another sync form, which a lot of our viewers probably haven't seen before, and that's going to be Marcel Jones and Kalman-Choka. This was incredible. This was Kalman's last Battle of Atlanta, and they did an opening demo where Kalman and Marcel both took the stage. They've been friends for a very long time, both coming from the Atlanta area, and this was just a really special performance to get a chance to watch. Sammy, do you remember this one?
Yep, I believe. Yeah, I was on Pro Rank at this time. So Marcel Jones, he was the captain of Pro Rank, and super awesome guy. Our team training sessions were always intense. We did demo. That was one of the greatest memories of being on Pro Rank, the demos. But Marcel and Kalman, definitely a great combination together. They have so much power, so much cleanliness. Just wait and see. Just till you see this, it's gonna be awesome.
I also, side note, I love Kalman's belt look. The really old tattered black belt, same thing that Casey Marks had in the other video. I just love the look of those black belts. You know what I mean?
All right.
And the synchronization of these hands is just insane. And again, two competitors that stylistically, you wouldn't necessarily think about them doing sync together, but it just works. You know what I mean?
Right. And although Kalman has done so many open forms before, people kind of know him as the weapons guy because they just think double sword when you hear Kalman-Choka. So it's crazy to see him doing an open form and a sync form tied together.
Also, notice on that skip front kick, that was a kick with the ball of the foot. That's one of my pet peeves of mine. A skip front kick, in my opinion, should be ball of the foot. Jump front kick can be top of the foot, but it's also a personal preference.
I'll remember that next time when I do my forms.
About to say, Sammy, do you have a hot take on your front kicks?
Just make it clean. That's all I gotta say.
As
I've
long as
always
it's
known
clean.
for there to be two different ways with the ball of your foot or pointed. Kind of one's more performance, whereas the other one's more catered towards traditional karate. But whatever you do, just cleanliness.
Yeah, cleanliness is definitely the most important thing. I guess for me, it's always that balance between practicality and performance, right? So for me, like the skip front kick is a move that you would traditionally use in combat more often than you would like a jump front kick, obviously. So for me, it's like skip front kick. I've always thought ball of the foot for that. And then when you do the pop front kick, which is supposed to be the prettier, more demonstration-based technique, that's where you point the toes. But again, that's personal preference. If I was judging, I wouldn't downgrade somebody for pointing their toes on a skip front kick. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now we're going to go ahead and pivot talking about, great weapons competitors. This Billy Ledger was not known as like a historically great competitor because what he would do is he would just try forms that were insanely difficult. So throughout his career, he did have a lot of drops, and that's kind of what held him back from the consistent overall Grands wins, things like that. But for me personally, I mean, he's one of the most innovative bow staff trickers of all time because he was, this is 2007, and he was doing things that were way, way ahead of his time.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest here. And I actually don't remember this competitor. But when we were watching this video, like you said yesterday, it really took me by surprise at how crazy this form is for its time. Everyone just pay attention to all like the little spins that he does.
I'll try to be a little bit more technical than little spin.
All the little spins. I mean, of course he's going to spin his bow, but just the intricacy
he just caught his
form.
bow in his elbow. I'm gonna rewind for everybody. Can we see that one more time?
Yeah, I told you the spins.
He caught it in his elbow. Like I've never seen that, and haven't seen it since 2007 either. That was a 360 spin catch behind the head, which it's still hard today. A lot of people don't do that.
Who's gonna put that elbow release in their form? Let's see it, guys. Who's gonna be the first?
First person to put the elbow release in their form gets a guest spot on the podcast.
There we go.
And then actually, you can't hear the music, but he was one of the first people to incorporate like a cut. So he shifted to like a totally different genre of music when he did that trick there, which is crazy.
He's so fast.
Got that Joey Greenhall style, which is to be expected as a straight up competitor. So much hype at the end there. Love watching Billy Ledger compete. He had some awesome forms, awesome tricks. Just went out there and put it all on the mat. Love to see competitors that do that. All right, let's see what's next on our list here. We're making great time. So, Sammy, if you can think of any forms that you remember that you'd like us to take a look at, feel free to go ahead and shout them out as we go through here. We are going to go ahead and shift to some soft style competitors. Once again, looking at some of my favorite weapons forms. This is probably my favorite individual performance that came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like this was a year, I believe this is 2013. So this is 2 years post Kalman retirement, 1 year post Matt retirement. And it was kind of an era where all the adults were trying to prove who was going to be the next guy. And Austin Jorgensen shows up with his drunken sword form and just owns it at Diamonds, taking the diamond ring with this form. Sammy, were you on Paul Mitchell at the same time as Austin at any point, or did he retire before you got on the team?
No, unfortunately, he retired before I got on the team.
He was a hilarious teammate. I remember we took a trip to the Cayman Islands with the team together, and Austin Jorgensen was hysterical the entire trip. Kip up, kicking the sword in the air there. That's insane.
That was so cool.
And what was funny, when Austin did his monkey staff form, I actually collaborated with him a little bit to come up with some tricks, some bow staff tricks they actually put in his monkey staff. That forward roll to the catch is ridiculous.
You see some competitors now doing tricks and catching their weapon, but I believe he was the first to do that.
Yeah, he would have had to have been the first to invert and then catch the weapon after the throw. 2013, he had to have been the first. In competition, that is. That stance there is incredible, too. Now, watching that form actually brings to mind, Sammy, do you want to see the second best drunken fist form that's ever been done?
Let's go. Let's do it.
So what we're going to do right now, once again going off script, is we are going to watch one of a division from Superforms. Now, Superforms is an old division from the New England Open. This is back in 2012. You had to spin a wheel, and then you had to compete with whatever style of form or weapon that the wheel landed on. And there's Sammy in the background, actually.
Oh
This
yeah.
is me performing a drunken fist form.
My facial expressions and reactions are pretty funny as well.
Just seeing so many people in the background that we can recognize is crazy. We see Amanda Chen, Derek Megan.
For sure. Superforms is one of my favorite divisions. I always look forward to the New England Open for this specifically. Everyone just had fun. It was kind of just like a whatever happens, happens type of division. So that's why you could do things like this. And because of YouTube, now we can go back and watch it.
Yeah, keep in mind for everybody that's watching this, I do not actually think this was good. This was atrocious. But it was atrociously hilarious, which is what makes it okay.
I think I might have one up there too. I see Tyler in the background has one.
Oh, and should we search Sammy Smith Superforms and see what we get?
I'm sure you'll find some interesting forms. I think I did one with an oar on stage before people were actually. That was a sword one that I see up there.
You want to go with the sword one?
If you want, there's probably a better one up there.
Probably. We can scroll a little bit more.
Let's see. That one is my oar one.
Oh, this is the okay. We got to see the oar form. The Aku.
Before you start this video, actually, backstory, I didn't land on oar. I landed on tonfas, but they couldn't find the tonfas. So I got somebody's oar, and they just handed it to me and were like, here. And I had no idea what to do with it. So my plan of attack was to use it like a bow. I don't really remember this form. I probably don't want to remember this form, but this was actually what won it for me. So I guess it was a good thing that I didn't land on tonfas.
That's awesome. So here comes the oar form. Oh, with that swing. It looked a little bit heavier than you might have expected. Is that right?
Oh my gosh, it was so heavy. That thing was dragging me. I don't know what was going on here.
That's a nice sidekick. I respect that. Is that Kyle Montagna judging?
I think so.
That's awesome.
I thought I was going to lose it. That's why I didn't do the baseball bat swing. Oh my gosh.
Traditional ending. I can respect that. Let's see what the next one is. Let's see what this one is.
I think this is the sword one. Two weapons that I do not do. You could see my facial, like how I'm really scared at this point.
Oh yeah, spinning that wheel always had so much anxiety. I was always just hoping that I wouldn't land on extreme forms.
Yeah, I remember my heart race. Oh.
What were you celebrating? What did you think you got?
I can't read it, but it was probably like extreme or musical something. And at the last second, oh wait, I do have chucks in my hand. I guess this is.
Oh, you got to do chucks? Wow, lucky. Oh, or is Mr. G not going to let you do chucks? We're seeing.
Oh, I think that's what it was. Maybe or not.
Nope, I think you're going for it.
I just
you look a little confused.
No, they're making me put it down. Yep. Oh, nope. Yeah, this is okay. I think what happened was that I landed on, and Mr. G was like, "No, you can't do it. You gotta do a weapon you can't use." So I guess sword was my weapon of choice there.
That was a beautiful Mr. G impression, by the way.
Thank you. I love Mr. G. He's awesome. He was on his team, G-Force. Obviously, you can see right there before on Paul Mitchell. So I'm very thankful for him.
Absolutely. Mr. G's been a huge part of my career, too. He's always been the guy that makes my bows, and he's always been a big supporter of me. So thank you, Mr. G, for everything you've done. Yes. Oh, look at Sammy getting the crowd into it.
I was so afraid I was going to cut myself.
With an aluminum sword?
And for you guys who can't hear the audio, the song is, now tell me what you want, what you really, really want. So just imagine that to this sword form.
Not bad, not bad. Now, Sammy, you were saying you actually won Superforms, right?
Yeah, I've actually won it a few times. I was so pumped for Superforms. That was one of my favorite divisions.
I was about to say, I think that you and I might be the only multi-time winners of Superforms, because I won Superforms twice as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, I'm going to go back. I know that one of my winning round Superforms exists. So we're going to go ahead, and after this advertisement brought to you by Butterfinger, we're going to check out a comma form that actually won me Superforms one year.
I believe.
So at this point, yeah, everybody thought that it was going to land on extreme form, so that was terrifying.
I
What were you
want to
saying,
say we
Sammy?
all did commas up here because I remember getting commas too. I know you got commas, and then Pinto got commas, and Pinto used to do commas.
Hmm.
I want to say this was the round that we all got commas.
And before I do this, I want to apologize to everybody watching. These cuts are not my standards. If I had been training commas for this, my cuts would look better, but these cuts are horrible. But I was quite proud of some of the tricks that went down here.
Oh
Little
yeah,
inside finger spin to the
get
behind
it,
the back,
get it.
under the leg, Michaela Johnson
Ooh.
swag. Over the back, once again, inspired by Michaela. Michaela was actually one of my teammates on this time on Change the Game. And then 1, 2, 3, boom. The triple spin with the commas. That's what won me the division. Taking the knee, showing off the 3 fingers. That was a fun one. That is not a clinic on how you should do cuts with your commas, but hitting the triple spin at the end of the form there was pretty exciting. So now we're going to kind of move back to soft style a little bit. We're going to go to one of my favorite all-time soft style competitors or Chinese competitors, and this is Richard Brandon, probably the most jacked competitor in the history of our sport. Sammy, trivia question: do you know which color Power Ranger he doubled?
I'm just gonna take a guess and say the red one.
No, actually, they mentioned in the ESPN2 commentary. Look at these biceps on this pose, by the way. Anyway, on the ESPN2 commentary here, they actually mentioned he doubled the Pink Ranger, which is
What?
interesting. Yeah,
That's crazy.
I guess they weren't using a girl at that time.
Not to get off topic here, but for the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade back in 2014, I was the Pink Power Ranger, so that's pretty cool. We have something in common there.
Did you channel your inner Richard Brandon?
Oh, I definitely did. I made sure my biceps were popping every move that I did.
Do any of those head flips?
For sure.
Now, one thing that's interesting that a lot of people don't know about Richard Brandon is he was actually blind in one eye. So you notice at the end of the form here how he had to kind of look around for a second. I'm going to replay that. Notice how at the very end of his routine, he kind of has to look around for the second and figure out where the front is, where the judges are. What would happen at the end of his forms is, because he couldn't really see what he was doing, Coach Rodriguez and Steve Babcock would actually stand right behind the judges and clap really loud so that Richard would know which way to turn around to bow to the judges. Because of his poor eyesight, he had no idea which way he was facing. He just kind of knew where he was on the mat to obviously get his spacing for tricks and everything. But that's a little fun fact that a lot of people don't know about Richard Brandon.
That's really cool.
Now, Sammy, before we go ahead and we shift to the last video that I want to show, which in my opinion is the most iconic form that's ever been done, shifting back to Kalmanchoka, before we do that, do we have any requests for a form that you want us to go back and look at?
Let's see. I mean, I'm just going to say, actually, I know I'm on a little of a Daniel rant here, but the other day I was watching his form from the 2009 New England Open, which I think is his last form that he did in competition. And since we did watch one from 2005, it would be cool to watch the 2009 one. You'll definitely see a difference in the tricks, but his hands were super clean here. Like I said, no matter what Daniel did, you knew it was going to be clean. You knew his energy you were just going to feel the raw energy in the room. So yeah, let's just take a look at this form here.
Yeah, Daniel Sterling, definitely one of the greats. Always brought a ton of energy. Just look at the power in those hand techniques.
And he's wearing the bottle uniform too. I'm so
Shampoo
jealous.
bottle uniform. I would literally kill for one of the all-black shampoo bottle uniforms.
Me too.
Okay, maybe not kill, but I would do horrible things to get one of those uniforms.
Look at that.
And you said you think this is his retirement form, Sammy?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% positive, but this is the last form that I think he did. And he was always known for those triple flash kicks.
Oh, yeah, him and Steve Tirada with those triple flash kicks. Insane.
And I love the ending right here. Everyone just watch this. Boom. Down to the knee.
Yeah, the kip up to the knee. That's nice.
Yeah. See, no one's doing kip ups now because we're all like just popping up off of our hands from the split. But I think it would be cool to start incorporating some of these old school movements just to bring it back a little bit. Oh, and this is definitely another one. This is, fun fact, I was handed the 2003 US Open DVD. Like I said, I started in 2004. So this DVD right here is what actually got me started in NASCA. It was this form right here, the forms of Matt and the forms of Taylor Lautner. So maybe we can get a Taylor Lautner video in here.
We can do a Taylor Lautner next. Little Shark Boy, Jacob Black. That was his name in Twilight, right? Jacob Black?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
My mom would kill me if I got that wrong. My mom, fun fact, actually has a cardboard cutout of Robert Pattinson in her closet, which is hilarious.
I'm sure she loved you sharing that too.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody gets exposed on the Jackson Rudolph podcast.
Uh-oh. It's not safe out here.
The gainer.
See,
Oh, you're right. Yep, that's back to the Austin form.
yeah, that's where it came from.
That's sick. I didn't even realize that.
And they're perfectly in sync. And at the end of this form, I wish you guys can hear the audio right now, but they don't do a normal ki. First they ki and then they go, what? And I thought that was so cool. Right here. What? You can kind of see them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. The change.
Again, just goes back to the performance and the showmanship of Matt Emick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not afraid to go out of the box. I think that's what more people nowadays need to be thinking when they're doing their forms.
Oh, that's John Paul DeJoria. That's sick. They actually had John Paul DeJoria give out the trophy that year? Oh, I'm jealous. That's also a dope U.S. Open trophy, by the way. Do you see what that was? It was like an all-glass trophy.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of the Quebec trophies from a few years ago.
Yeah, they used to be glass as well.
All right, so now we're going to look up some Taylor Lautner.
Let's get some.
Let's just go U.S. Open. I think that's one of his. Or actually, no, Bluegrass Nationals. Actually, no, he stumbled in the Bluegrass form. We're going to go U.S. Open. Sorry for my indecisiveness here, y'all.
The blue-haired, shirtless Taylor Lautner.
Oh, yeah, this is an iconic Taylor Lautner form. By the way, I love how ESPN used to give like these little athlete stats at the bottom for even like little kids. Height 4'6", weight 74 pounds, age 11. That's hilarious.
Fun fact here, I used to pretend I was Taylor Lautner, and I used to recite this form move for move in my living room at like 7 years old. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Did you include the flexing and the showing off the abs there?
Oh, yeah, and some other things. But
building the suspense, those OG XMA pants.
And I was always like wondering why he bowed twice. To this day, I really don't know why he bowed twice, but
I think the first bow was just too early. I think he didn't know what to do at the time. I've done that before.
I'm gonna just bow here.
Definitely a disciple of Mike Chat. All the suspense at the beginning, a showman. Court to the split. That's sick. So did you see this form in person, Sammy, or you're saying you just saw the recording of this form?
No, I wasn't at this U.S. Open. This was the 2003 U.S. Open, so I just watched the DVD. But because of this form right here, this is the reason why I do sport karate. Like, I'm not going to lie. This form right here, thanks to Taylor Lautner, got me inspired.
And I was difficulty on that corner pass, by the way.
Yeah, I was really hoping that when I was at the 2004 U.S. Open, I was going to meet him because I had the biggest crush on him, and I just wanted to meet him. But that didn't end up happening. But a few years later, I actually did get to meet him, which was super cool.
That's awesome. So now let's do this. Since we go ahead and we went and watched one of the later forms of Daniel Sterling's, since we exposed ourselves a little bit with some of our early forms, Sammy, what's a more recent form that you'd want us to watch?
Man, there's actually not a lot of videos on YouTube because of the live streams, but a really good form that I'm really proud of is the 2017 U.S. Open weapons on stage.
I'll just search U.S. Open. We'll see what comes up. I feel like Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast, dude, pulling up all the YouTube videos. It's this one, right?
Yeah, it's the first one right there.
Okay, perfect. So now let's see. And actually, the one that I was going to show is as my glow up. My 2017 weapons is one of my favorite forms that I've done. So that's kind of funny that we had the exact same tournament, exact same night show was our favorite weapons forms.
There was definitely something in the air that night then.
Now this is one of my favorite belts that you wear. This is the Eric San Jose belt. Is that right?
Right. I have a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I really like the look of the wraparound with all the names of the forms on my belt. So that was cool. I was definitely proud of that belt and repping that for a while before I took on Daniel's belt, I should say. I didn't take it from him. He gave it to me.
I said, did you steal Daniel Sterling's belt? Is that how that happened?
No, I asked permission if he would be willing to send it to me and the reason why.
That's awesome. Great speed here. 360 on the chuck release. That's nice. Little homage to Matt Emig, I guess, right? Because Matt was the first person to 360 with the chucks, wasn't he?
Matt was the first to do anything, I think, with the chucks, so I'm sure of it. I know he was definitely the first to do a backflip spinning the chucks, which I didn't do there, but I know in the past I've definitely spun my chucks on flashes.
Mm-hmm. Boom. Very nice. Awesome form, Sammy. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you. I love to get it animated at the end of my form. You guys saw that in the beginning of this podcast, and you're gonna see it to the day whatever my last form is.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing. If it's a U.S. Open, you got to. You know what I mean? You got to show the judges that you want it more than anybody else.
For sure. There's a different type of animal that comes out of you on that stage at the U.S. Open that you can't even describe. You feel the heat of those lights. Everything's so bright. You can't really see anything. And you're just going to go out and give it whatever you got.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've always loved competing U.S. Open. It's always been my favorite stage to compete on. And I just normally at U.S. Opens, I feel myself have to warm up a little bit as I get into the form because I always start a bit tight. This form, I felt into it from the very first move.
Yeah, I do know what you mean on that. I think because there's just so much pressure, and then you just get into your form and you just realize that you're just having fun and you're living in the moment. And when you finish that form, you hit that form. Oh man, that you can't even describe that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things about this video is watching Tyler Weaver and Richie Veras reactions in the back when I hit this move. It's hilarious. That was the first time that I'd done that little arms cross posed in competition. So I guess it worked out for me.
Sick. Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, always going ham at the end there, just trying to show off, talking my talk a little bit in there, which sometimes I regret, but that's okay.
I live for the end of my forms.
Now, before we move on to the very last form that I want to show here, we talked a lot in this episode about the rivalry between Matt Emig and Cal Menchoka. And oftentimes this form that Matt did is overshadowed by the fact that it was Kalman's retirement tournament. But we have to give a ton of respect to the form that Matt laid down here, given the circumstances, knowing that Kalman was retiring. Interesting story about this. If you guys listened to the interview that I did with my dad a few episodes ago, the way that this actually went down is Matt had drawn to go last, and Matt actually requested that the order be changed. He gave up his spot going last so that he could go right next to Kalman because he wanted the direct comparison between the two of them. Isn't that crazy, Sammy?
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's so cool. And that just shows that's just something else because I don't know who would do that in this day and age today. That just shows the character and, the drive to, just show everybody whatever it is, I'm going to just put out my best and I want to go directly against the best.
Absolutely. There's nothing like that head-to-head comparison. And those are always my favorite divisions. You know what I mean? When I'm up against, Reed or somebody like that, and they just hit a great form and me having to follow that and try to match that. I mean, it's one of the best feelings in the world as a competitor to have that moment.
For sure. And you feed off of each other's energy, which is really cool. Sometimes, when it's the CMX and it's the traditional, then you have to kind of get yourself pumped up again. But when it's CMX and CMX, that's like I said, you can't describe it because you're just feeding off of each other's energy and it's pushing you.
Absolutely. So much respect to that form that Matt did. But now we have the last form that we're going to watch, the most iconic form that's ever been done. You're a big deal. You know that your retirement's a big deal when Sport Martial Arts starts filming you before you ever walk in the ring.
There's Matt right there.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Matt just went. He's breathing kind of heavy. So it looks like what Matt said, he was going last. It looks like Matt said, I want to go right before Kalman and had that switch. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this epic walk up to the stage, Kalman just in the zone. And everybody knew what was about to go down. Everybody knew that something crazy was going to happen because everybody knew it was his last form. He actually had the guts to announce before the tournament, this is the last one, which is crazy.
Yeah, that must have put so much pressure on him, but you can definitely tell that it did not get to him at all.
Oh yeah, he looks cool as the other side of the pillow right here. Calm, cool, collected. And then just casual, like, oh, let me reach in my gi. Oh, it's a blindfold. It's just insane.
Yeah, and those are
Nixon's knee.
full swords he's got there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a big fan of the split swords that people do nowadays, where it's just one sword cut in half. It's not the same. It's got to be two real swords. Well, not real, but two full size swords. That is.
No, we should make things interesting and make people use real swords now.
Live blade swords. I can remember watching this. I actually remember I was on stage. This was 2011 was the first year that I was on stage doing CMX weapons at Diamonds. I'd been on stage before doing traditional forms, things like that. But I remember being backstage and watching Kalman warm up because this was the last form of the evening. I remember watching Kalman. He probably ran his full form 15 times backstage just preparing for this moment. And that's where I get a lot of my pre-tournament rituals now when I'm preparing for the finals. Just did a release, not being able to see the sword at all, 100% timing. And even like I've heard people say before, like, oh, he could see through it. Even if he could see through it a little bit, your vision is so impaired by this that it's not even funny.
Oh yeah, and he's making sure that he's looking at every single strike. Even though he can't physically see where he is, where he's striking, that's where his head goes, which is, good martial arts technique right there.
Absolutely. Didn't sacrifice any technique. Boom, finish. And then just look at the emotion here. I mean, I've never seen a form with so much emotion as this form had. The year before at Diamonds, Kalman came close because he had the form that he ran right after his dad passed away. But this form, I mean, you just can't beat it. It's iconic. This is a martial arts form that I will never forget. Wouldn't you say, Sammy?
For sure. Definitely agree.
And he just looks on the brink of tears there because he knows that it's over. Puts the blindfold back in his gi, and then right back into focus mode. Has his moment, and then he's got that look in his eyes, that Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant type look. At the end here, gives a little wave to the crowd. And that's just an awesome, awesome form that I will always remember as long as I live. And yeah, so there was just a taste of some of Sammy and I's favorite forms that we've ever seen, us breaking it down a little bit, talking about it, reminiscing about it. If you guys have other forms that you would like me to watch, if there's anybody else that you'd like me to watch forms with, if you want to hear me and Sammy talk about forms again, feel free to drop that in the comments. I know that we had a lot of fun. Sammy, do you want to share any final thoughts? A shout out to any competitors or any other just forms that you want to mention?
For sure. Going back to Kalman's last form, where we were talking about the emotion, I think that's also another thing that the kids and even the adults nowadays need to try to start implementing more, because that's what's part of the performance. A form is just not a form. You got to think of it as a performance. And the fact that you can feel his emotion, you're not even going through what he's going through, but you could feel it. I had chills on my skin right now as we were watching that. Like, I kid you not. That just says something else. And like I've been alluding at this whole time while we were watching all these old forms, I really would like to see a switch back. I know you're always trying to move forward and in that sense, but I do think it would be really cool if the juniors brought back some old school moves or some old school style. Just because the juniors nowadays are what's going to change the sport. And I think we need to reel it back a little bit, because these forms were so cool to watch, but they all stood out because they were all different. They all had their own different style, and that's why they were known. So I definitely think that we need to start implementing a little bit more old school, bring it back a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it was so awesome to watch all these guys. We watched Matt, we watched Daniel, we watched Austin, we watched Jackson, we watched me. So everyone who I've been coming up in the sport with. So it was so cool to watch. And thank you, Jackson, for having me on this podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to doing another episode like this in the future. And I want to echo everything Sammy said. You know, we want to see some of this old school come back. I feel like what we see now is we see a whole lot of the junior competitors doing a lot of things that the current adult competitors do. One thing that I try to inspire a lot of my students to do is go back and do film study like this. The reason that this series of episodes is going to be titled Film Study is because that's what you should do to make yourself better. Go back to anything pre-2015, not anything recent. Go back before 2015 and watch videos of some of the all-time greats and see what it was that they did that made them special. You know, even like somebody like Kalman, you know, I've tried to model my entire career after Kalman. Kalman was always, if there was a weapons overall to win, Kalman was going to go win it. And that's always what I've set out to do in my career. And, you know, hopefully when it's all said and done, I can sit back and relax and say that I had a similar legacy to his. But obviously that hasn't happened yet, because I've still got more to prove, and I've still got more to win, and more competition to be done. But, you know, as a competitor, you want to find somebody that you look up to and that inspires you, but you don't want to replicate them. Even though I look up to Kalman and I inspire Kalman, obviously the fact that Kalman and I do totally different weapons is the first step. But obviously we look very different stylistically, weapon choice, everything else, but you can still look up to that competitor and be inspired by them. I've never done a flip in my life. I probably will never do a flip in my life, but Matt Emig still inspires me. Daniel Sterling still inspires me. And that's how anybody watching this episode or going back and doing your own film study, that's how you should be looking at it as well. So just a couple of final comments here. Sammy, thank you one more time for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. One more time for the audience, if you guys want to hear other episodes like this, feel free to drop those in the comments. If there are specific forms that you want me to look at, go ahead and drop that in the comments. If you've been listening on Podbean, definitely head over to YouTube. Check out the same episodes so that you can see the videos that Sammy and I are discussing here. We hope that everybody had a happy Easter. We hope that everybody is staying safe given the coronavirus pandemic and everything. So just everybody stay safe, keep staying home, keep doing what we got to do to flatten the curve. Really appreciate you tuning into the podcast. As always, this is Jackson Rudolph, and that was episode 19 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. See you next time.